Good day, everyone. Today, we will be discussing about the intellectual revolutions in society for week 3, and this is your mom, Jeremy Sagario, your lecturer for this topic. You may have read about different theories that worked and were believed to be true during ancient times. In astronomy, for example, you have learned that Sun is the center of the solar system and that the planets, including Earth, are revolving around it in an elliptical orbit. However, people in ancient times believed that the Earth was the center of the universe. Early beliefs also claimed that human beings were created through divine creation, but this was replaced by Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection. These are just some of the examples of these theories that were challenged in the history of science. What were the great intellectual revolutions that significantly shaped our society? What made these theories controversial? Who were these people or groups of people behind these theories that permanently changed the course of history of science? What were their needs and what were their struggles that motivated them to engage in such scholarly contribution? This topic will lead you to some of the answers of these questions. Moreover, this topic describes how science and technology theorists paved the way for the Enlightenment and our current understanding of some of the fundamental concepts of science and of the world. The man who moved the sun. The way people think about solar system has changed many times throughout history. Before the development of telescope, astronomy beliefs were based on what can be seen by the naked eye. One of the earliest ideas on how solar system was structured was introduced by Claudius Ptolemy. He said that planets as well as the sun and the moon move in a circular motion around the earth, a concept which is known as geocentrism. This geocentric model, considered to be one of the greatest discoveries of all time, was widely accepted by the people and became the astronomical dogma in Western civilization for 1,400 years. In the 16th century, Nicholas Copernicus challenged the geocentric model by putting sun at the center of the solar system and known as the concept of heliocentrism or heliocentric theory of the universe. He is a Polish astronomer and known as the father of modern astronomy. And take note, the scientific revolution began after the intellectual contribution of Nicholas Copernicus. In his model, Copernicus repositioned the Earth from the center of the solar system and introduced the idea that the Earth rotates on its own axis. Copernicus' idea and model of the universe was essentially complete in 1510. Not long after that, he circulated a summary of his ideas to his few close friends in a manuscript called Commentariolus or Little Commentary. In his book, he wanted a model of the universe in which everything moved around a single center at varying rates. Copernicus placed the sun to be the centerpiece of the universe. The Earth and all the planets are surrounding or orbiting the sun each year. The moon, however, would still be seen orbiting the Earth. Copernicus' model of the Earth orbiting around the Sun automatically positioned the planets into a logical sequence. Copernicus in 1543 explained the parameters about the heliocentric model and the anomalies of Ptolemaic universe through the revolution of celestial spheres. And take note that in his model, Copernicus outlined two kinds of planetary motion. First, the orbits of Venus and Mercury lay inside the orbit of the Earth, thus closer to the Sun. And second, the orbits of Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter lay outside the Earth's orbit, thus farther from the Sun. A conflict of heliocentric universe is the presence of Aristotelian universe or Claudius Ptolemy. They believe in a geocentric universe and that the planets and stars were perfect spheres, and movement of the planets and stars must be circular since they were perfect, and if the motions were circular, then they could go on forever. The second scientist with a great contribution in the history of science is Charles Darwin, who was born in 1809. Charles Darwin is a naturalist who studied variation in plants, animals, and fossils during a 5-year voyage around the world in the 19th century. Take note that at the age of 22, as he went into a voyage, he used HMS Beagle, a British ship, as a naturalist, mapping his expeditions in South America and South Pacific. Why was Darwin's work controversial? Darwin's theory of evolution challenged the idea that God made all plants and animals that lived on Earth in a single day, which contradicted the commonly held Christian views of his era. That's why he did not publish his scientific work and ideas until 28 years after his voyage. As a result of Darwin's world expedition and observations, which were enhanced by many years of experimentation, he proposed the theory of evolution by natural selection. Darwin proposed that first, individual organisms within a particular species show a wide range of variation for a certain characteristic. Second, individuals with characteristics most suited to the environment are more likely to survive to breed successfully. And third, the characteristics that have enabled these individuals to survive are then passed on to the next generation. And this theory is actually based into four ideas. We have variations, inheritance of variations, overproduction, and survival of the fittest. Variation is more on the differences that occur among members of the same species. Example, different breeds of cats, horses, and dogs. While inheritance of variations is more on how traits are inherited from our ancestors. And based from our presentation, we can actually use a pedigree chart for us to track how diseases and traits are being passed from one generation to the next generation. Overproduction tells us that organisms produce more organisms that can survive and reproduce, because this ensures that some offspring will reproduce for them to avoid extinction. Lastly, survival of the fittest, wherein it explains the idea that organisms with traits that are better for adopting can survive in a very unstable environment. In the past, the field of psychology was always classified under philosophy. Psychology was considered more of an art rather than a science. In the late 19th century, Sigmund Freud was able to change people's perception of psychology with his revolutionary theory of psychoanalysis, making him to be the father of psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis is the study of human behavior. In his theory, Freud explained that there are many conscious and unconscious factors that can influence behavior and emotions. He also argued that personality is a product of three conflicting elements: id, ego, and superego. Freud believed that mental illness is a result of nurture, not nature. And take note, Sigmund Freud also studied the idea of human motivation, which is connected to Abraham's hierarchy of need. In connection to Sigmund Freud's idea, we have here Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, wherein it is divided into 5 stages. First stage is the physiological level. These refer to basic physical needs like drinking when thirsty or eating when hungry. According to Maslow, some of these needs involve our efforts to meet the body's need for homeostasis. That is, maintaining consistent levels in different bodily systems. For example, maintaining a body temperature. Take note that Maslow considered physiological needs to be the most essential of all our needs. Second is safety. Once people's physiological requirements are met, the next need that arises is a safe environment. Our safety needs are apparent even early in childhood. Third, we have love and belonging. According to Maslow, the next need in the hierarchy involves feeling loved and accepted. This need includes both romantic relationships as well as ties to friends and family members. It also includes our need to feel that we belong to a certain group. Importantly, this need encompasses both feeling love and feeling love towards others. Fourth need is our esteem needs, which involves the desire to feel good about ourselves. According to Maslow, esteem needs include 2 components. The first one, it involves the feeling of self-confidence and feeling good about oneself. The second component involves feeling valued by others. That is, feeling that our achievements and contributions have been recognized by other people. And lastly, we have self-actualization. Self-actualization refers to feeling fulfilled or feeling that we are living up to our potentials. One unique feature of self-actualization is that it looks different for everyone. For one person, self-actualization might involve helping others. For other person, it might involve achievements in an artistic or creative field. The human mind has 3 aspects which influence our behavior. We have ego, superego, and id. Now, let's take a look on the differences of these 3 aspects. First, we have the id, which is the unconscious part of the mind. This part of the mind seeks to bring us pleasure. It is also a primitive part of our personality, including aggression and sexual drives. Second, we have the ego. This is the conscious part of the mind or our rational self. This decides what action to take for positive means and what to do based on what is the right thing to do, wherein it gives us awareness regarding reality. And lastly, we have the superego, which is the unconscious part of the mind that acts as our conscience. This reminds us of what we should do. And take note, with all these 3 aspects, the id and the superego are in constant conflict because your drive tells you to do one thing while the society tells you to do something else. Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, compared the human mind to an iceberg. The tip above the water represents consciousness, and the vast region below the surface symbolizes the unconscious mind. Of Freud's personality structures, id, ego, and superego, only the id is totally unconscious. So these are the different theories that paved the way for us to understand some of the fundamental concepts of science and of the world.